All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So it was a wild 24 hours for the Baltimore Ravens as after pulling off the trade with the Las Vegas Raiders to acquire Pro Bowl defensive end Maxx Crosby, they would then pivot their focus to the premier edge rusher on the market. So after 5 years with the Cincinnati Bengals, defensive end Trey Hendrickson hit the open market and he was looking to cash in. And that is exactly what Hendrickson did as he and the Ravens agreed yesterday on a 4 year deal for $112 million. The Ravens were definitely in the market for an edge rusher. They only had 30 sacks last season, which was near the bottom of the National Football League. And you look at Trey Hendrickson over both the 2023 and 2024 seasons, we're talking about a guy who accounted for 35 sacks, 17 and a half in each year. And of course, he led the NFL in that category in 2024. Now, Hendrickson was limited to just 7 games last season, which resulted in him having surgery for his hip and his pelvis. For me, my thing is this because that surgery happened in December. And if you're the Ravens, you nixed the deal uh, to acquire Crosby due to injury concerns about his knee, but they still went ahead and signed off on Trey Hendrickson. Clearly, their medical department saw something there with Maxx Crosby. I would imagine that would have resulted in them backing out of this deal. But nonetheless, as this deal with the Raiders fell through, you look at it right now, Baltimore still has their first round pick, which is 14th overall. Remember, the Ravens were giving up or willing to give up their first round pick for both this year as well as 2027 for Maxx Crosby. So, with that said, now that the Ravens have their first round pick, will they look to continue to beef up their defense in round number one? We've got to see. But for the Bengals, okay, they knew that there was a pretty strong possibility that they were going to lose Trey Hendrickson in free agency, especially after talks broke down last summer. But now, from the Bengals standpoint, poor Joe Burrow. I mean, you're talking about a Pro Bowl quarterback who's coming back from another lower body injury, and he's going to have to deal with so many premier edge rushers in his own division. TJ Watt with the Steelers, Myles Garrett, who just set an NFL single season sack record, and then, of course, Trey Hendrickson. So that's 6 games right there. Okay, the Bengals are definitely going to have to beef up this offensive line over the offseason. But getting back to the Raiders, where do they and Maxx Crosby go from here? Because remember, the Raiders were big spenders in the first day that teams could unofficially come to agreements with players because they had freed up Maxx Crosby's salary. So now he is still on the Raiders roster. But honestly, let's say that the Raiders still want to go out there and deal Maxx Crosby, which I think that they will try. Okay, they're clearly not going to get a pair of first rounders like they were going to get for Baltimore, but they'll still get compensated. They could probably get multiple picks. Some of those picks could be incentive laced, or conditional picks, rather, should I say, to this thing. And of course, it all comes down to whether or not the Raiders are going to have themselves a bidding war. Remember, when it came to Maxx Crosby, Dallas was willing to give up a first and a second. And of course, Baltimore trumped them with a pair of first round picks. But you have to wonder, would Dallas want to circle back to Maxx Crosby once again, maybe feeling that they could get him at a cheaper price? Also, you have teams like the Philadelphia Eagles and Indianapolis Colts who were reportedly in on attempting to get Trey Hendrickson. Would they try to go out there and make a run at Maxx Crosby? I'm sure all of these teams now, being that Baltimore backed out of this deal, they're going to have their medical departments on high alert. Granted, all players have to pass a physical before a trade is made official or a signing is made official. So I guarantee you, all of these teams are going to do their due diligence if they are truly interested in Maxx Crosby, and I think some of them definitely are going to be. So, should anyone be upset at the Ravens for backing out of this deal? For me, I think the people who should be upset are the Raiders. is one of those where I'm not going to put Maxx Crosby into that, category just due to the fact that, hey, deep down in his heart, Maxx Crosby wants to be with the Raiders, okay? But at the end of the day, I think he understands that it's a business and he also wants to win as well. And it might not be with the Ravens now, or it's not going to be with the Ravens now, but he's going to have an opportunity to go play with another team, a potential playoff team. And getting back to the teams, that could potentially be interested in a Maxx Crosby now, I think that the Colts would probably be out of that conversation as or they wouldn't have as strong a case as the Eagles or the Cowboys, just due to the fact that the Colts gave up their first round picks for the next couple of years to the New York Jets, so they don't have the draft capital that maybe a Philadelphia or a Dallas would have. But nonetheless, the signing of Trey Hendrickson, I said this about Maxx Crosby, so definitely with Trey Hendrickson, this is definitely going to make the Ravens be the team to beat in the AFC North. You still have Lamar Jackson in his prime. You have a new head coach in Jesse Minter. I expect this defense to have a much bigger impact this year for Baltimore than they did last year. And of course, a lot hinges on the health of Lamar Jackson. A lot of injuries last year for Baltimore, but that will change. Again, Trey Hendrickson, one of the premier edge rushers in the NFL. You're talking about a guy in 5 years at the Bengals, 61 sacks in his 4 seasons with the Saints. He was starting to figure it out his last year. 2020 in New Orleans saw him get 13 and a half sacks. So you're talking about a guy who has 81 career sacks. And, he did it primarily with the Bengals where there wasn't another guy that could pose a threat to getting to the quarterback on that defense, and he did it with so much attention on him. So now he's not gonna get double teamed as much this year with Baltimore, especially if they bring in some more help, maybe via the draft to beef up this pass rush. So I think Trey Hendrickson is going to have a phenomenal season if healthy with the Baltimore Ravens. For the Raiders, like I said, it's back to the drawing board. Clearly, nobody saw this coming. And if you're the Raiders right now, you're left with egg on your face and you still want to try to come out of this thing smelling like a rose. Like I said, you're probably not going to get 2 ones for Maxx Crosby at this point, but you could definitely still get something. So you know what? Credit to the Ravens for having a backup plan after things fell through with Maxx Crosby. And again, they still got the best available edge rusher in free agency. So now they're moving forward, but let's see what's next for the Raiders and Maxx Crosby. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to the channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. Also, that goes for Instagram, but you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. And also, finally, if you're on Facebook, definitely be sure to check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.